You did what many people have been wanting to do, but because of fear for their jobs and for their lives, have not done. So this country must commend you for that. Because this country, or the justice cluster and the security cluster in particular, is highly compromised. And that has been expressed as evidence before this committee. So you must go to your home from this parliament, you must go to your family, knowing that you did the best for this country by what you did on the 6th of July. Thank you, sir. So I thought it's important, General, and I'm saying this without any fear of contradiction. Many things have been exposed here. All those things were not going to be exposed had you not taken upon your shoulders to go to the media briefing on the 6th of July, 2025. But I think when I ask you questions, I must start here, General. I know some people might think that by asking this question, I'm going beyond the confines of the terms of reference. I'm not, because within the terms of reference, there is a term of reference which says we must investigate the alleged infiltration and abuse of subs. I'm not quoting it verbatim, but it is within that context. Now, the question I want to ask you about is a question about a man, a businessman in KZN, a man called Kelvin Matube, who made serious allegations about you. I know that you took the matter to court, but I think the matter did not deal, the court did not deal with the merits. It only dealt with your application to interdict. So all the merits that, and the allegations that he raised when he spoke about you were not dealt with. And therefore, they have not been tested by any court of law, and they are not under any judicial scrutiny. So the allegations that he made, I think you know all of them, General, but I will summarize them. He says, you are working for business bosses. He further says, you are using the police to settle scores, and the police are doing dirty work. They target KZN police. They target certain individuals, and they pretend to be conducting investigations with an intention of killing those individuals. What is your reaction to that? How is your reaction? How do you react to that?
Honorable Member, Mr. Matube, I did not know him. He believed one of the business people in KZN, like many others. But where I become aware is when I'm told about the things that the man is writing on Facebook, comments he makes about me as a person. But what is interesting on that is that he even includes the issues of Minister Mkhwanazi and what we are discussing here. And when I inquired more, then I established that he's a person who's very close to the minister. So he made a lot of false allegations, and allegations of things that are coming from the media, amongst others. It's a given. There are people that are loyal to Mr. Mkhwanazi. The press briefing was in no way to make Minister Mkhwanazi as an evil, but it was a person that was an obstacle for the administration of justice, and we had to come out with that and make it clear. But the people that support him, like Matube, came out strongly and started throwing accusation around. So it's for that reason that I took it out of my own to challenge him. And he made use of the media, amongst others, to make those stories. Again, as I said about Minister Mkhwanazi, he's a person that's been fed the wrong information. The least the man can do is to stand up and say, I was told by so and so this information about you. Because me and him never met, but now I know his face, and I hope we'll meet very soon. We're in court now. And that was the first matter in court. We are following on that because they've not honored that court order. So we are continuing with the court process on it. Obviously, there are many other actions that are going to follow thereafter. Thanks to him for having come up and start making that noise, that we started getting to know a lot of things about him from his staff that have brought to our attention. That's why there was a search in his properties in different provinces, because his staff are starting to share some irregularities that are happening in his space. Not because we wanted to do that. It is because of what he exposed himself, being influenced by the people that influenced him. The allegations that he made that involved taxi people, I would be happy if you were to mention which taxi person or company or family is talking about. But to my conclusion from after investigated about who is he associated to, because I did not know he's in a tax as well. I thought he's just a businessman that run tenders. Later I learned that dog is in the tax environment. In actual fact, the police arrested some of his security guards. I think about 2 of them, if I'm mistaken. But when they were arrested, those security guards were protecting one taxi boss in KZN from Inanda Tax Association. He's a chairperson there. His surname is Getsemane. When that Getsemane was arrested after invasion of a site, a mine in KZN, the police responded. They were arrested. They were detained. His guards, this Matibe's guard, were amongst the people that were arrested. So that what triggered Getsemane to start accusing the police on a lot of things. But I learned later that Getsemane has issues with other families in the taxi business in KZN, which is historically between them that dates back to, I don't know, 2013, somewhere about. So I then believe that that means Motipedi being very close to Getsemane, maybe because Getsemane has issues with another family. It perhaps Matibedi assume that I'm associated with the enemies of Getsemane. So that's my conclusion. But other than that, I have no issues. All the taxi people I engage with, I was there last weekend, Saturday, with another taxi companies before coming down here. I'm not associated with any of them. So whatever he made out there is not the truth.
Yeah, maybe I should have declared that I also know Mr. Kelvin Matube from when I was a member of the ANC. So we used to be very close when I was still in the ANC. I think it's important that I declare that, but that is not my interest. My interest here is finding the truth. And I want to establish the basis for his allegations. Because he says, General, at some point, the police, I don't know whether it was the PKTT or the NIU, raided his house. They wanted to arrest him without a warrant or with a fake warrant. And he established later that the warrant was fake, was not authentic. Do you know that story?
Yeah, no, I do. Perhaps let me, honorable member, from my assessment of Mr. Matube, and I believe that that's what I'm saying. If we're to sit with me here and he be honest, that he comes and blames me about things without even having engaged me in the past, someone fed him that information. That's why he went out public to do that. Mr. Matube, when his 2 guards are arrested, it is because Mr. Getsemane had engaged with the chief in KZN. That's why the chiefs sometimes get killed themselves, because they become part of these tenders and conflict within the business people. The chief has shares in a mine, but the chief authorizes Mr. Getsemane in exchange of a Toyota Fortuner car that is given to the chief. The chief gets the money the right to take over the mine. He's a shareholder. He's not owning the mine. 10%, I'm told, that is controlling in that mine. But this gets the money goes to the mine, accompanied by guards. In this mine, is not a wanted, it's trespassing. So he enters the mine and he says to them, I'm here to take over, I'm in charge of the mine. It's a quarry. Now, the people that are managing, one of the directors managing this mine, is contacted by the officials. And these officials contact him and say, hey, these people are coming here, they are carrying guns, and they are coming to take over the mine. This person then mobilizes the police, not Mkhwanazi, he phones the police. Police arrives, they arrest these people for trespassing. Matibe's guards are there. That's where the first garage with the police comes from. Fast forward, an incident happened in December last year, allegedly, I'm told. An individual made contact with a senior police officer, a detective in KZN, and says, I am Colonel so-and-so from the Hawks in Gauteng. I'm investigating a case against Matube and I've got a warrant of arrest on Matube. Can you please help me secure this man while we are traveling down to Durban to come and take him? The police officer says, send me that warrant. And the warrant is emailed to a police officer. The police officer takes this warrant and give it to a captain to take the team and go to Matibe's house. Remember, they're waiting for this detective to come down. And the verification of the legitimacy of the warrant is done separately. So the team arrives at the house of Matube. And when they get there, then they ask, where is Matube? The wife says he's not here. They say, no, we've got this warrant of arrest to come and arrest him. That's how he gets to know. They give the copy to the wife. That's how he gets to know the police are looking for him. And then the police communicate back, no, we don't find this person. And the police officer that sent them contacts the Hawks member, but he doesn't get the Hawks member. He may contact again, he doesn't get the Hawks member. So they continue verifying this warrant, they discover that this Hawks member doesn't exist. Then the police have returned. They didn't do anything in the house, but they delivered this to the family. So the police were acting, thinking that they are assisting their fellow colleagues from the Hawks. It later, fast forward, honorable member, discovered that that person who pretended to be the Hawks had used an email of the police in Eastern Cape to send that fake warrant. Date, stamp of the court and everything in it. And that person have defrauded many people, apparently is sitting in prison himself in Pretoria.
So when you say the police general, are you referring to the PKTT?
No. The honorable chair members, maybe let me repeat again. And I want you to always maybe help South Africans. A PKTT has always been made out of less than 200 members in KZN. 200. Their sole mandate is in black and white about cases of political killings and later traditional leadership. Anything outside that does not involve them. There is 19,000 police officers in KZN. 19,000. So it is the rest of the police that are doing the work in KZN and not PKTT.
So was it a specific unit or
the person who's contacted is a provincial head of one of the detective teams in KZN, in my office. He's the one who's contacted. Actually, the head of organized crime was contacted first, but he said, no, he doesn't have teams to go and assist. He referred it to his brigadier next door, and his brigadier then dispatched his team to go and help. These are brigadiers sitting at the provincial office. They are provincial heads of different units in the province. The PKTT is a team that sits somewhere else. They're not part of the management structure of KZN. They are just as an intervention for this.
Yeah, no, because the reason why I'm asking you further is because the impression that the allegations are giving is that there is a coordinated, concerted effort to deal with Mr. Matube as your project. So it's like he is your project. You are dealing with him in pursuit of interest of certain individuals from whom you are taking orders from a taxi industry. That is the allegation that is being made against you. So, have you ever ordered the police now within your official responsibility to go and raid Matibeli's residence?
No,
Within your official responsibility?
well, up until the most recent one, where there were search warrants on his property, that's when I was involved. Prior to that, no.
So what triggered the last one?
I've
General?
got thousands and thousands of complaints that came from the Matibedi staff that were sent to me. So I had to act on it. But it comes from different people who are, some of them in Durban, some of them in Gauteng, some of them in Limpopo. I did not know that Matibedi has got offices in all these places. This is the staff that used to work, and some of them are still working for Matibedi. So they are talking about fraudulent contracts. They are talking about murder cases. They are talking about all sorts of things. So it's many of them. As a result of that, I then had to engage with my colleagues on the other side. They said, I've got this in front of me. We have to investigate. Of course, we had to then make an application to the court to get an authority to search. Authority is granted. Another application to another court to search the premises. Authority is granted, and so forth. So the investigation that I was involved with is the one that's happening now. But prior to that, from my understanding, there were two raids in his premise, or not two raids, but two police visits. One was in his house in December, which was as a result of the fake, I can confirm it is a fake arrest, warrant of arrest. Well, he's got the legal recourse if he so wish to engage on. I can't stop him. He's got all the rights. But they were not sent by me. It was communication between that person in prison and the police officer, and they sent a team there. That is one side. The second one is happened, I think it was the 13th of February. I'm busy with the operation in Durban on that same day. On a Monday, I'm told that on a Friday, I sent a team to his house. I had no clue. When I started establishing who was there, I discovered that the people that were there were from the head office that came to do farm inspection at his premises. I didn't know about it. But I'm the one that is blaming. So that's why mine was, well, I couldn't just phone him and say, hey, sir, you barking at the wrong tree. I had to go to court.
So please remind me, General, the last raid, did it happen after you took each other to court? After you took him to court?
Yeah, the last one happened.
The last one?
Yeah, after.
So do you confirm that it was not a reiteration?
No, it's not. That's why I can show my phone, the complaints that came to me for people that didn't even know. And why I would not just sit back and not act is when I see the team is going to fight me on this one, because I'm not going to disclose some of the things that are part of the complaints that are there, is that a tender is completed. In this tender, there are certificates, and these certificates must be commissioned. Now, when the person who commissions a document is sitting in Limpopo, he commissions a document, is taught how to commission a document as if he's a police officer.
Okay.
How to write a rank, how to put a personal number. The stamp belongs to a police station that he has never seen.
Yeah,
He's done this thing in the office. That's what I'm saying.
I think, General,
Is those type of complaints.
I think it's because it's still under investigation. I don't want to jeopardize your investigation.
All right.
I just wanted to get the gist of this altercation.
No. Yeah, well, prior to these recent searches that happened in all 4 provinces, I did not even know him.
Okay.
For that matter.
General, my observation and my conclusion about the National Commissioner, General Masemula, is that to a certain extent, he also abdicated his responsibility with regards to the disbandment of the PKTT. If I can use a silly language, I can say he also slept on duty, because he was on leave. A decision is taken by the minister. When he comes back, he does not contest it. He implements the directives. He even goes to an extent of making a presentation in Parliament about and they start to implement a plan, a post-disbandment plan. So don't you feel that as a matter of principle, the National Commissioner also is to be blamed for this? Because if he knows his constitutional powers, he should have not allowed that decision. He should have contested it right on the spot. He should have said, no, Minister, you do not have powers to do this. We are not going to implement this. So don't you think this is a fair criticism? I mean, me, if I was a national commissioner, I was not going to allow the minister to do what he did. I was going to tell him right in his face that, Minister, you don't have constitutional powers. I am the only person who is the accounting officer here with operational responsibilities. So the National Commissioner as well participated indirectly in violating the Constitution. What is your take on that?
Honorable Member, the National Commissioner and myself are different. His approach on things will not be the same as me, and I'm sure yourself as well. Someone will have asked me, why do you go out public and make these pronouncements that involves one of the things was spoken here, presiding officers or judiciary? Why didn't you complain through the structures that exist? And my response will be, the procedure of complaint is there, but it was going to take long, and I did not trust the process. That's why I felt it is important for me to approach it in this fashion. The National Commission might say, in my approach of things, I was going to get into the same outcome as Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, but coming in a different way. Yes, I was frustrated, I must tell you that. Because for me, I needed action and action done fast. That's why I took it out of my own to phone the minister in January and to also send him a message in April. Because I felt that I need to engage him directly. But that was not successful. So I have engaged National Commission numerous times, pleading with him to engage the minister and even take it to the president. But of course, he will come back and respond. He's a person that's different than me. I'm sure you've realized that. He's a bit of a calmer guy, which is different than me. So I cannot say what he neglected his work by doing what he did. He might have not agreed with the minister, but not wanting to go directly. Perhaps that's why the reduced way of closing down the team, which is a winding down approach and so forth. And I must say, Honorable Chair members, that the likelihood is that had the minister granted me an audience in January when I asked to meet him, and perhaps the minister convinced me that although it's not immediately, but we might want to get rid of this so that we can move it like this, perhaps I would have agreed with the minister, and if he had that opportunity to sit down with me, listen to me, and we engage and we agree on how we should go about it. But that opportunity was not granted. So for the National Commissioner, he had an opportunity to engage with the minister, how they engage with each other, how he was able to persuade the minister to say, let's not shut it down immediately, let's have a plan of closing it. I cannot say he was sleeping on duty.
Okay. You know, General, when you were making the explosive revelations that you made, the first thing that came into my mind is that was phaguling news. I don't know if you understand that language in Zulu. More phaguling news, ziyaphuma zonke zize kuwena. So that is why you need to hide your face. And that thought came from the prevalent fundamental decay within our institutions. Corruption is everywhere. And we have seen good men and women in this country trying to expose corruption with no success. Some have been victimized. Some have been killed. Abanye today, banengane ezingenawo ama-breadwinners because they stood on the side of principle. So Have you not become vulnerable since the revelations? Have you not been attacked? Has your family not been affected by this whole thing? How are you surviving? Because even people who don't know you, they know you now. Some are characterizing you as a rogue individual. Some are saying you are a killer. Some are batu inkabi, we poison inkabi, and so on. And I'm sure that affects your family as well. So since the explosive revelations you made, how have you been surviving?
Yeah, well, I said before, and I will say it again, we all shall die, and nobody will live forever. It depends how you die as a person. I'm not much of a Christian. Christians tend to be afraid of dying a lot, and yet they pray. But I'm not necessarily worried about dying. If death gets me, it will get me. That's why I can still walk out here and play with explosives. That's why I can walk out here and do skydiving. That's why I can do, because anything can happen there, you can die. That's why I can still fly from one point to another, not being worried that the airplane will crash. So death will catch us all. But I must say, honorable member, that this action of the 6th, I took a conscious decision that I will stand for the truth, knowing that indeed my family is going to be affected. I can't easily walk around anymore with my children and enjoy sitting in a restaurant and having a meal because people come to you. You can't go and participate in any other place where normal human beings go to because people come to you. I'm the person that likes freedom. I don't like to be guarded all the time. That's why I've said, and I'm saying, those who might be planning something, they must move with speed if it happens.
Some are
If they
saying,
don't,
some are saying, General, you did all what you did because you wanted to secure your contract. You wanted to be reappointed. What is your take on that?
no, that is not true. It has never been. When I took the decision to go to KZN is because I thought I'll do my bit and I leave the organization. So the organization approached me in December and said, we want you to stay. And then I had my own condition. First, I had to go and discuss with the family because it was never my plan to stay longer. But understanding the situation that we were in, I had to engage with the family and say, this is the request that is offered by the police. What do we do? And we discussed, and I went back to the National Commission to engage on that one. Hence, I'm still waiting for the decision from the National Commission in that regard. So
Okay.
it's not me that applies. The law doesn't apply. Once you choose to become honorable chair members, I was sitting as a lieutenant general at the head office. And that employment was going to keep me there until I turned 60. But I voluntarily left that contract. And I took a 5-year contract with not a single cent in addition. I moved, I relocated from Gauteng to KZN because I wanted to come home so I can contribute in the safety of the family around where I live, so that after 5 years when I retire, I can live in a peaceful environment. So me going to KZN had nothing to do with the money or the contract. It was voluntarily. It's unlike a person who applies for the post of being a provincial commissioner. He goes for interviews, he gets a contract, and when a contract is coming towards an end, he wants to extend the contract. For me, it was different. I was a general already at this level in Pretoria for many years already.
Okay. You see, when I was listening you talking about General Khan, I was asking myself if this committee has done justice to comprehensively investigate at length the allegations that you made. And I was saying maybe we missed an opportunity because the manner in which we have described the role of General Khan requires that he comes before this committee as a witness, but he was not called. The unfortunate part about this committee is that it is constituted by representatives of political parties. So it is not driven by principles of objectivity and impartiality to a certain extent. Some people become overprotective of their party interests. some become overprotective of their personal interest. As a result, or ipso facto, they compromise principle and they do not arrive to issues that were supposed to arrive to. They just scratch the surface, and some don't want the truth to be exposed. Do you feel, General, as the main complainant, because the reason why you are the only witness who has been granted an opportunity to come back is because we regarded you as the main complainant. Do you think this committee has comprehensively ventilated and investigated these allegations? Or we've just scratched the surface? Besihamba nje la emoyeni. Asifikanga la kufanele sifike khona. I'm asking this because we have not called any. I know that you said you don't have adequate evidence in relation to the judiciary, but it's open secret that the judiciary is not a paragon of virtue. They also have their smallanyana skeletons, but none of them has been called to come here. Do you think we've done justice as this committee? Leave the Madlanga, but this committee, which is structured the way it is structured politically.
Yeah, well, in as far as the work that the committee has done, I was hoping that the reason for the minister to come up with the letter of the 31st of December was going to be investigated. Not just simple us being called here to talk about it, but I'm talking about a forensic investigation done from his gadgets, where this letter was compiled, his communications between him and his staff, Vusi Piccoli that he made a reference to, that he shared this thing with, and those legal structures that are established to assist the minister, like the DG at Civilian Secretariat. So those are the things that I was hoping were going to interrogate it thoroughly. And I feel they were not thoroughly interrogated. There are 3 items that the minister raised on his letter. And the majority of the time the committee spent was on the first one. The second part of it is just moving below the radar. The third part of it, which is border security, it's even more of a concern for me because that's a gateway for the bad things coming to the country. And I don't think the Ad Hoc Committee have done justice to establish exactly what's happening there. I hinted on some weaknesses in these areas, but I thought the committee was going to even do inspection in loco for that matter to test what we're saying. Whether really are we that open in our borders that things can just come in willy-nilly and without being checked? So those are the type of things I would have expected the committee to do. The time you were given maybe was not sufficient. Perhaps going forward, different structures, different committees, depending on the recommendation, will dig deeper. Especially the Portfolio Committee on Police will dig deeper to find out what are the things beyond this Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay, please bear with me when I cut you because there are questions that I would like to pose to you, and I'll be very flabbergasted if we finish without asking these questions. Evidence has been tendered here about the misuse of the so-called slush fund in the Secret Service account in crime intelligence. What is a systematic shortfall on how the slush funds are being run? Are there any gaps which are opening loopholes or which are opening a can of worms? And if there are systematic gaps which are attracting corruption to the Secret Service account, if they are, then how do we close them?
It's going to be difficult for me or a member to talk about Secret Service account because I'm neither a member of crime intelligence nor understand exactly the details of how they do business there. But one of the things that I picked up from the complaints I learned from the Divisional Commissioner, the Gerald Kumalo, and something I've learned when I was the Acting National Commissioner as well, was that the abuse of the resources becomes easier simply because there are these clandestine people that have been used. So a member is going to claim money on behalf of, and then that claim is paid, but that payment might not land to the person that is supposed to receive. because of that system that they have within crime intelligence. Because they have to do things covertly. But also what became a weakness at the time, which Arukuma was trying to close, was that it is one individual trusted in decision-making to pay. So we came with control measures of putting a committee in place. It was aimed at trying to put some controls. But to go deeper to discuss issues of the crime intelligence or any intelligence community on how they operate, I'm not empowered to do that. I don't have necessary credentials to be able to discuss it.
Okay. When you were here, General, I asked you about Minister Senzo Mkhunu. I think the question that I asked is, do you have evidence proving that he is linked to criminal syndicates and drug cartels? And I think you gave a very fair response there too, because you said there are matters that you are still investigating surrounding him, and you have identified some trust account and so on and so forth. Now, General, my perspective here at this stage is that there is no adequate evidence that links him to criminal syndicates and drug cartels. Where we find him wrong is in relation to the decision that he took to disband the PKTT. It is my view. I can argue it for a couple of minutes, but because I don't have enough time, it is my view that he does not have constitutional powers, and neither does he has statutory powers to do what he did. But with regards to the other allegation, there is no adequate evidence proving it to be correct. What is your take?
I can't agree with you more, Honorable Member. I've said it before. I met the minister early in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, just before the elections. Elections come. The minister appoints chief of staff. It's a minister that I was introduced to as being the good man. So when a letter is written on the 31st of December, I feel I must reach out to the person that I was introduced to so that I can be able to warn him about the implication of this so that he can retract it. And I'm not granted the opportunity. So the events that follows thereafter, all the way up until I send him a WhatsApp pleading with him to meet so that I can be able to discuss this role of Mkhwanazi that has come to the picture and the Khan in them. The minister acknowledges that, but he still doesn't grant me that opportunity. And then other evidences that comes out, we then realize that minister was consciously aware about the intentions of the people that are rogue within the organization to shut down this team. To what extent did he know that they were going to shut down the team? For what purpose? I'm not sure whether we have the reason for that for now. This statement of someone that comes from prison that seems to suggest certain things, and the witness E at the Nhlanhla Commission that recorded the minister when he was pleading with him to give a statement, and the presentation the minister made here regarding the work study investigation, amongst others, it made me conclude that the minister is protecting people. He's using justification that does not exist. CFO disputed, everyone else disputed what he presents here as the reason for the letter. So it then leaves me with one conclusion. He was assisting the CBS, who in turn are assisting the cartel squad. So when you are assisting in that fashion, you might not be directly involved, but directly you are allowing the criminality to take place. So that is my conclusion. That's why I kept on saying, if he was honest, he was going to say, I was influenced by so and so and so and so and so and so. And you can easily forgive him for that. But he's not being honest about that. He says he's an author. If he's an author, then he gets into the constitutional question. What gives you the powers? That's what
Thank you, General. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Honorable Shongwa. Chair, can I give my chance to Boss Kosan? I really need to restructure my questions.
You have 25 minutes.
Sorry, Chair?
You have 25 minutes. The only time we have now is towards break. So we can't run for more than 25 minutes.
No, it's fine. We can continue then. Kwale Nkosi,
Inhlonishwa.
ngiyaphila mphathi.
Siyaphila njani manje?
Hayi asibonga. Ndaba ezithi angicale la waqala khona nawe owakwenza. Waya ebantwini emva kokuthi ubone ukuthi ikomiti lamaphoyisa lenza ngendlela efanele. Angicale ngokuthi ngicele ebantwini base South Africa ndaba ezithi futhi thatha ithuba lokuthi ngibabongele ekubeni nesibindi esingaka. Thatha umndeni wakho, thatha freedom yakho uyifake kule nkinga engaka. Ngicabanga ukuthi nathi sibasha la eParliament sithole sikuleso simo leso sokuthi uma sidibana nezinto siyibuze ukuthi ngabe sizela isalary la eParliament noma sizela ukuzothi izwe lakithi malishintshe ngeinqumo esizithathayo. Ngithi angiyibongele kakhulu kwale Nkosi South Africa. Ngicabanga ukuthi uhleli lapha uyona ingelosi futhi awuyena umuntu owenze ukudlula abanye kahle. Kodwa okwenzile kuyisiqalo sokushintsha izwe lethu ukuze lithathe i-direction right. Siyabonga ndaba ezithi.
Ndibani.
Ngifuna ukuthi ngicele ke baba uMkhwanazi ukuthi iSouth Africa nama ngibuyele kuyo ngiyokhala kuyo ngoba sekuningi uma ngiyithathile nezinto engizenzile ezisifaka enkingeni futhi ezifaka ukuphila kwethu engozini. Umehluko kweyiko lokuthi angigadiwe njengoba ugadiwe wena. Kodwa sizokujika sofela khona. Angicela ama-South Africans ukuthi akwenze ukuthi asi-assiste thina nawe namaphoyisa njengawo ukuthi ekugcineni siwathola amandla futhi asithume ekuthenini sitshintshe ama-policies nemithetho ekuvimbile ukuthi usheshe ufake abantu evenini. Ngoba ngibonile ukuthi kuyi-constitution somewhere la ivimba khona ukuthi la ngabe sowungenile uqedile kodwa kubuye kuchitha isikhathi kusibambezele. Ngiyakuthembisa ukuthi uma singathunya kwale Nkosi abantu nabangalalelisisa kahle kahle sokwenza lokho. Ngoba uma sisuka la siyobhala i-report futhi siyobhala ama-recommendation to iParliament ukuthi lithathe inqumo. Angicele nje ama-South Africans ukuthi asibukelele. Kwale Nkosi igama elithi Provincal, Johnson, Batoyi, McBride, Sullivan, Padiach, Khan, Usbiya, Mchunu, uJulius, uGeneral Fan, uSenthumule. Angilungise lapha kuJulius mhlambe kuzozwakala kabi uJulius Mkhwanazi. I'll fix the error. Bengizoqhubeka ngikhulume ngabo. Kodwa kamanje nawo umbuzo wami. Kuthinte kumcule ngimthanda kakhulu ndaba ezethu. Uzingwe Malo. In the big five, who is Zingwe Malo?
What we know is that amongst the people that are within the big five, that there are many business people that are associated with them. There are many politicians that are associated with them, and some of them has been spoken about in public. But it does not necessarily make them to be the big five. I said earlier, in one of the farm in north of Pretoria, it became like another arm of government, where all these high-profile people, business, politicians, and everyone were accounting it. So for now, what we have on the record that Zingwe Malo is one of the business people that are associated with the people, not to make him a big five, but because of his business interest that he had that involved some of the people. he ended up in that space, and he's not the only one. You will see a lot of photos, a lot of names of others. Does not necessarily mean that they are part of P5. They are associated with these people one way or another. It does not necessarily make them P5. So from the records that we have of Nhlanhla, he's, I think, one of the people that became closer through the taxi finance, if I'm not mistaken. He was facilitating people in South Africa to get funding for taxis. And the taxis were controlled, or the Santaco was controlled in that space. So that's why I think he lands in that space and his name is popping up all the time.
Nangibonge baba. Amaphoyisa njengalawa afuna ukuba njengawe abopha abantu kwangempela. Kodwa sovalweni ngoba yacabanga ukuthi uma uzoba u-detective and uthola ukuthi uphethe information strong, kodwa uzoya phambili uyazi ukuthi le information izophuma ikhishwa ibona lamaphoyisa la ehlalweni eziphezulu. Siwasiza kanjani amaphoyisa kanjalo ukuthi aqinise idolo nesibindi ukuthi aqhubeka ephambili? Ngoba my concern is that amaphoyisa amaningi wabo aqoshiwe umsebenzi in general. Baqoshwe bafakwa ama-cases angekho, kuba nama-dismissals anga-understandeki, bese kuba nama-lawyers angenelele ukupressa labo bantu labo. Siwasiza kanjani amaphoyisa njengalawo ukuthi aqine idolo aye phambili?
Yeah, well, the reason why government came up with the labor laws in our country, yokuthi umthetho uvikela abasebenzi. The police officers are affiliated to unions. So if unions are strong in defending police officers against the abuse, I think that is going to go a long way to support them. That is on one side. But on the other side, channels must be opened. And the only place I think the channels for me can easily be opened is through Parliament, the Portfolio Committee on Police. Create a platform, an opportunity, or a section within that can allow police whistleblowers that want to talk about things that are wrong in the police, that they see, or things that makes them not be able to do their work. But it must be an organized structure in such a manner that is going to receive complaint and be able to investigate these complaints and find them to be legit and be able to then take necessary action. They can take action by making reference to IP to investigate such behaviors, reference to the IDEC to investigate such behaviors, or in many other structures. But if the individual committee members are going to be receiving calls from police officers and they don't investigate, you write a question in Parliament that goes in, is not a solution. The question in Parliament will not solve the problem of a police officer. So we as senior managers might be doing something wrong that the junior member is aware of, but is afraid, as we are saying, to speak out because it's going to be reprimanded. We're going to charge and discipline and dismiss. There must then be a platform, at least in a secured environment, which I think the Parliament might be one of the secured environment, where this police officer is able to depose of his challenges, because IP is created for the purpose. But we've seen a number of cases that IP has in their position where there's no traction in terms of investigation. I don't know the reason. We're hearing of the bad things that IPs are doing nowadays, which then creates a doubt about their capabilities. So Parliament must be then the place where one can cry. Presidents have created a complaint structure there, but a complaint comes in, they just dispatch to different departments. What I'm asking for, if we create a structure in Parliament, it mustn't be receiving dispatch. It must be receive, investigate, and then make a referral.
Maybe to follow up on that, as parliamentarians, in your view, what is it that we are not doing, Masenzi oversight, that we need to be doing?
I think that's a good question, Honorable Chair and members. The oversight role, well, I'm not in Parliament, I'm not the lawmaker, so it might be difficult for me to criticize much what you do. But I see in how ordinary living government works. You will have debates about the subject, but that debate might just be a debate as a tick of a box. If a decision is taken, it stays. So same with the oversight. You might find something wrong in a department, but what are the legal things you do as an oversight body that holds an accounting officer accountable? Shouting and screaming is not a solution. You can bring a person and shout at them in a meeting, but it's not going to. They're going to leave here and go aeroplane and go away. How do you make sure that there is action taken? I don't think there's ever been, I'm not saying that you must start now, but perhaps it might be an opportune time. Provincial commissioners are appointed by the National Commissioner in consultation with the executive in the province. When the executive who represents society feels that the lead of this police is not helping in fighting crime, that executive should have a platform to send a communication to the National Commission and request for a fitness board. But it is the executive of the province that has that legal authority. The portfolio committee of police in the province, or security, I don't know, community safety portfolio, they don't have that right. Whatever oversight they might do, they will have to write to the executive and raise those things. In Parliament, the person who accounts is the head of the police in the South African Police Service, the National Commission. And since the dawn of democracy to date, I don't think Parliament has ever initiated the process of a fitness board against the National Commission. It becomes a decision of the president to say we're dealing with this one or we're not dealing with. But the Parliament, who does oversight, who see the wrong, who have asked for the report, presentations, make suggestions, and there's total ignorance on the things that the law says we must do. There's never been any opportunity, or as far as I know, a time where this portfolio committee will write to the person who's responsible for this accounting officer and say, this accounting officer is not fit for this job. Take action. All the departments, DGs, are appointed by the president. I'm not sure whether the past president and the current has ever received anything from Parliament that says, Mr. President, we are asking you to take action against this DG or against this National Commission, against this general. So I think those are some of the things that we must start want to look at. Because if failure to do that, it means you do oversight over an institution where you really don't have any say on it. You are just calling them to shout at them and they leave again. They come back tomorrow, they leave again. It's the same thing. You'll do that and you become famous to be a very active parliamentarian, but the person you are active on remains in the position. Or the institution that you're doing oversight on, they still do the same things, same way. No changes.
Uchaza ukuthi into esiyenzayo ukujwayela kahle kathi sesezinto ejwayelekile nje ukuthi kuhlale kwenziwa kanje but we are not effective. But let me appreciate that. Asikhulume nalo daba. What is in your view uma kukhulunywa ngawe nebag ye-Louis Vuitton? Why did you feel the need to speak out ngayo wena usuka khona uchazela abantu ukuthi kukhulunywa ngebag ukuthiwa wayithola? What prompted you to do that?
Honorable Chair and members, I'm glad you're asking me this because this Louis Vuitton has a history. The history is, I think, majority of government officials suffer the same thing. They fall victim of the similar thing. Mkhwanazi gets on a trip to France where there's a big exhibition to look at different equipment that we use as a police. We are there for a week. In one of the days, as we are walking and person is tired of being walking in this place every day, I come across a plate. I take this plate, I'm a task force trained person. Mine is guns and bullets. So when I take this bulletproof plate, it feels like a paper. I take this thing and I look at what is written on it. What can it stop? What caliber of bullets can it stop? The numbers that are written here, maybe not to believe it. So I say to the person on the desk, I said, this is not true. This plate can stop this caliber. This person says, no, it can. I said, no, demonstrate this. Then he gave my details, said, no, we're going to send an invitation. I fly back to South Africa. We receive an invitation. I put a report to the acting national commissioner at the time, Ms. Patlan, and I said, General Patlan, we went overseas and we saw this. I'm interested to know about this because part of a problem we have in police is the death of police. They are dying because they are not wearing bulletproof vests. Portfolio committee have been parading us almost every single day. Police officers are not wearing these vests because they are heavy, uncomfortable. And here I am seeing something that is weight of a paper. And they say it can stop the same caliber of the weapons that we are protecting our members against. I want to test this. So General Patlan approves that, no, we can go on invitation back to Germany this time, not in France, to where the company is, to go and test. Remember, I'm the task force person and mine is managing the tactical teams. I'm not a ballistic expert. So I won't be able to go details about what this plate is supposed to have. That's why we have to get forensic people to come with us. A colonel from forensic in Cape Town came with us. So we travel, we go to Germany. In Germany, they take this plate, they put it in microwave with a high temperature degree. They take it after a microwave, they put it in a bucket full of water. They take it from there, they drop heavy object on top of it to mess up with the material of this thing. From there, they put it against the clay. And they ask us, what is the speed of the bullet that we use in South Africa? They load up this bullet and they shoot this thing. 7 bullets goes into it, not a single one goes through. 2 AK-47, 2 R5s, pistol, and the likes that goes into this. Nothing passes. And for me, it was a wow. I've never seen this. The clay at the back, it's an indication of the impact for those that knows the gun. You put a clay in the plate. When you shoot, the bullet may not go through, but the impact the trauma is going to cause on the body, you're going to see on the hole that is going to be created on this clay. That size of that hole is going to tell you that the trauma, nonetheless, although the bullet didn't go through, but the trauma can kill a person. So the plate must not be able to allow that trauma. It must resist even that trauma. So this plate passes everything. I still asked the colonel that was with us, I said, why are we using such a heavy things and not this? So they asked us, what plate are you using? We said ceramic. And then our colonel says the reason we're using ceramic plate because in our specs as the police, we have the specification of a bulletproof vest that must stop an armor-piercing bullet. I don't know if you know the difference. The armor-piercing is the one that goes through steel. So the only thing that will stop that bullet is a ceramic plate. And ceramic plates are heavy. That is one. But two, ceramic plates are easy to break. When you drop it like this, it can crack. So once it cracks, the integrity of it is compromised. This ceramic plate must be evaluated every 5 years. Do we do that in the police? We don't. So we walk around with bulletproof vests that we have been wearing for 10 years, thinking they can still stop a bullet, but we don't know because we're not retesting it. So that was a concern. I come back into South Africa. I speak to my management and I say, and I made a recommendation report, Gerald, I think we need to acquire some of these things and evaluate them with the aim of changing our bulletproof vest in the organization. But he says, no, well, start the process. Now, in starting the process, I'm the one that initiates this. So I engage with General Arlo, who's the head of support at Division HRD, and I say, General, can we have a budget to buy this? Because remember, this is not budgeted for by supply chain. It's an evaluation. We want to evaluate a new product. So General Arlo makes the budget available, said, no, we can only afford so much. And there were about 200 of them. We make an application to the division that is responsible for buying, that is supply chain. We say, we request you to get hold of this. This plate is in Germany. We'll want to bring it here into the country so we can test this. With the procurement rules of South Africa, supply chain should have gone straight to that company and get this thing to come in, but they didn't do that. They went via a local service provider. How do they source the local service provider? I do not know. In my understanding, there was no one who was providing a service of that bulletproof in the country when we met with the company. But later we learned that, no, there's a service provider in South Africa that can import this thing. So supply chain goes and buy through that service provider. First batch 200 is delivered as per our request. It comes. So we take these things to different units for testing. It's an evaluation procurement. General Arrow come with a proposal. Arlo, he was working at HRD. He says to me, General, why don't we increase this number of these vests from 200 to 1,000 so that we do the assessment of Pretoria West Academy? There's 2,000 students in that college. We do the full medical assessment. We give 1,000 of them these new plates, new bulletproof. We give the other 1,000 of them the older ones. After 6 months of running with these, we re-evaluate them medically to see the impact on their spinal cord and their bodies and everything else that the ceramic plate that is heavy has on the body versus this light one. So I said, but we're going to need money to do that. He said, no, we have some savings in the budget, we can do that. And I said, okay, so let's make an application. We do. But remember, we don't buy. We apply to supply chain. Supply chain wants to source these things, but obviously the head of supply chain must engage with the CFO, which is Gadget at the time. So then they decided, two of them said, but we've already bought this thing and it was beyond the money that we're supposed to buy on quotation, we must buy through tender. Because it's for evaluation, we're able to source it. But the second batch is going to be expensive for us to get it directly. Let's go to Treasury and ask for permission. They wrote to National Treasury. They asked for permission. National Treasury said, no, but you've got the 200 to evaluate. The reason you are giving for the evaluation to buying the others, we cannot agree with it. Go on tender if you want to buy the others. So the response come back, and that's where it stalled. To my understanding, because the response we got back from supply chain said, no, Treasury didn't approve, so we can't buy. So we live with it. We cannot buy. But I didn't know that the company that was procured from the 200, supply chain, when they received the second request from us, while they're asking for permission from Treasury, they told the company to bring more. The order is coming. And the company ordered. But when the company ordered, they got the finance, I'm told, from First National Bank. They got the loan and they ordered the staff to come into the country. But when Treasury said no to it, supply chain did not send an order to the service provider. So the service provider suffered because he's got the product into the country, it cost him millions, and he's got no order. That was his, I think, stupidity that he did. But when there were investigations that were done by IP and many other people, it appears that someone from within the bank, they approached these members and said, this person owes us money. He asked for money because of Bulletproof, but he's not paying us. That is what started everything to say, this person received this Bulletproof, and the investigation was lodged. I'm told they raided these companies' offices, but they realized actually there was no order from supply chain. So they seized these 8 gadgets, computers, and they did everything. That is on one side. But on the other side, I had asked the SC to help me yesterday. Remember those numbers that I asked if you can open them for me so we can reference to? I don't know if you saved them. I hope you did. What I then discovered, honorable member, is that in me introducing this light vest, I'm making a lot of big business angry because I'm introducing something that does not exist in South Africa. So I'm coming to disrupt their business. And out of curiosity, then I started investigating to say, we are forced to stick with this ceramic plate, even if it doesn't work for us, for all these years. Who are these people we are buying from? Then I saw the list. I think less than 5 companies or maximum who are solely responsible for giving us bulletproof vests since the dawn of democracy to date. So here's me coming up with something that's going to disrupt them. It's part of why there's this so much attack on me. But fast forward to that initial visit, there's another visit with the National Commissioner to the same exhibit, but we're going to visit the police there, then we pass the same exhibit. When we return from there, because this information now I asked from the National Commission, when we return from there, because there were many of us. One of us was Brigadier Leon from Forensic. She's the one who was always, when I was in a task force, I was receiving a lot of things that she was buying for research that cost millions of rand without tenders. She's the one who was bringing these things. The drones were the first to have drones bought by her, cost millions without going through tender because she was doing that job at Forensic. She was with us on that second trip. We were about 5 or 6 of us. On our return, allegedly, from what I hear, is that she received a gift from someone. We are there for a week. When we part ways, you go to the hotel, you don't know what the person does. Others go shopping and this and that. Apparently, she received a gift of a bag, Louis Vuitton. They say it's a clash bag, from what I'm told. She comes back, she declares that. But none of us are declaring anything because we're not getting anything. It is the case based on that to say there were Louis Vuittons that Leon Ras declared, the others didn't declare. So which means, that's why Paulo Sullivan will say, I don't know what he did with Louis Vuitton. That means he gave it to his wife because he knows that it was a clash bag, it's a woman's bag that was given to Brigadier Leon Ras. The rest of the men that were there, myself, I know I didn't get anything. So when the story went out, I asked the National Commission, I said, what is the story about this Louis Vuitton? He said, no, they approached him to ask him about it, but there was no Louis Vuitton. To date, nobody has ever come to Mkhwanazi to ask questions about it. But Mkhwanazi is out there in the media. So this goes to show that it was a fight back that I believe come from people that were disturbed on their business. On one side, for honorable members to know, the price of it cannot be the same as the price of a bottle that you buy in South Africa. If this bottle comes from abroad, there's taxes and everything that is going to make the price of this expensive. So it was a given that vest is going to be expensive simply because it comes as a complete unit. I wish I can present it before you so you can compare both. I'll invite the Portfolio Committee of Police to tell us to bring that bulletproof vest, old one, and that we found that site, bring the ballistic report, the member that was there to show the difference between the two. I'm glad today these companies are starting to make the very same light plate, thanks to us introducing that. But I can say to date, we are still on ceramic.
So I'll be
Today, we are
wasting
still buying from the same companies.
So I'll be wasting my time asking you ukuthi bekune 100,000 kuleyo bag leyo because there was never a bag.
So they talk about the clash bag. I don't even 100,000 rand. How does it even get to that clash bag? So you can see it's a story that was just made up.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, people that shared with Mr. Paulo Sullivan, he then believed that this is the fact.
Go umbuzo wami ogcina.
Thank you so much.
Bese ngizobuza ngoKhan.
That must be the last question.
Thank you, Chair. No, quick one. Why would General Khan, if there's all these allegations, you as his colleague and seniors, if I may say, maybe it's your senior, I don't know. Why would you and in the state probe such a person unama allegations angaka and nimyekelele? I'm asking this because I still feel strongly ukuthi if he felt ukuthi yena is innocent of the allegations, he wouldn't come to me. He wouldn't invite me to a certain place to speak to me on a video call. He would be doing exactly what you are doing with the Louis Vuitton issue. In your take, what's that issue?
I really don't know. I don't know because he's not working under my command. With all what I know, if he was working under my command, I would have taken action long time ago. But he does not work under my command, so I cannot be able to answer as to why there's no action taken against him. It seems to be, even in this committee, is missing. You know, we find a way of dodging everything. I do hope that the police commissioner will do something drastically this time. General Commando said he has dismissed over 30 members at crime intelligence. But that's not enough. There are many wrong members that are still there. That shouldn't be there. That have been part of the system. So we need to, I think General Khan is one of the richest general we have, maybe more richer than all of you.
Walter kulizwe mfoka kwale nkosi asibonge baba Mkhwanazi inkosi kubusise.
Thank you so much. We take a break. We come back at 20 minutes to 6. I want to remind you that your staff members want you outside again now. Thank you so much.
So I wasn't here at your first visit,
Okay.
and so I may have missed some stuff. But on your own account, you've been a senior manager in the police since around 2011, right?
That's correct. Well, maybe let me rephrase. A senior manager in the police is when you become a brigadier. So that will take me back to 2005.
Wow. So that's a long time. And you clearly have a lot of clout in the police. You're a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I'm a serviceman to be reckoned with, not the force.
The issues that you raised at your press conference, these are not new issues.
That's correct.
Anybody who lives in South Africa who is even moderately knowledgeable
That's correct.
has some idea, perhaps not of the extent, but has some idea of these problems.
That's correct.
And they haven't been getting better, they've been getting worse. We're all aware of this. So while you were in the senior management of the police since 2005, and I understand a brigadier is not necessarily in the kind of position to do it, but a general certainly is. What did you do to address these issues, to try and change the trajectory of the police service, which we must admit has been a downward one?
Honourable Member, in my past experience in the police, in different levels where I managed, I've dealt with a lot of bad things and I've corrected them myself in those extent, but not to the bigger scale of the entire organization. That was within the space where I was operating, from the unit level all the way up until I was a task force. I left the task force and I became a component head. The former divisional commissioner, Lamour, who was once my boss, Gerald Motiva, who was my boss, Gerald Mawela, who was once my boss, they can attest to that, that I will challenge things while working as a brigadier and as a major general.
No, I have no doubt that you challenge things, General. But the question is more, why on a greater level, why on a more broader spectrum? What did you do to change things in the police, to change the trajectory? Not unit bound. I understand that in your own unit you probably jack things up. But I mean, as a senior manager, your concern should be for the entire organization. So what did you do to do that?
Yeah, well, beside the actions that we took last year, July, I had an opportunity to act as a national commissioner in 2011, 2012.
Correct.
The interventions that I started with there was to temporarily remove the management of crime intelligence because I wanted to clean house.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't last in the office much. When I was removed, Jarpiaka came in, things went back to normal. So that was my attempt to try and clean things up.
Okay.
At the time, many people were being investigated, and amongst others.
So what are the changes that you implemented in that short period? I think you were acting National Police Commissioner from around October 2011 to around June 2012.
That's correct.
So what are the changes that you brought in then when you had the chance?
One of the things that was critical for me was to reduce the number of generals that we had. And one of the things I had said to General Mkhwanazi, who was the head of HR at the time, that if any lieutenant general leaves, we don't fill that post. Whether that person leaves at the province, we move someone from head office to the province. But we must cut down, because when I came in, maybe I was a number almost 40 of the lieutenant generals that we had in the police. So that, for me, was a problem, because a lot of infighting at the head office, especially.
Just as a matter of interest, why are there so many lieutenant generals?
Well, it ended up being a party thing. I get into a position of authority. I want to move my friend to that level. I create a division and appoint that person.
Oh, that's really not a good reason. But
well, some of the members ask here, why did the president appoint Mkhwanazi overnight and promote him to lieutenant general? I did not apply for the position. I just became a major general while was still enjoying 5 months to be a major general. Next thing, I'm promoted to a lieutenant general. You asked me whether was it a good thing. It benefited me financially, but honestly speaking, we are too many. And
Yes,
I don't think it was ideal to even appoint me. There were many lieutenant generals that could have been appointed at the time, but they chose me. Well, in choosing me, automatically meant they must now elevate me to the same level with the others. And that cost the state money.
I agree that there are way too many. Yeah. Now, the issues that you raised in your press conference are all important issues. But why didn't you raise them before July 2025? Why did you allow the position to become so desperate? If you did raise them, where did you raise them? And don't go back to the history of the Portfolio Committee. We know this. What did you do in the police to raise these issues?
Yeah, well, we've had a number of meetings with the National Commission trying to address this. That's why I even engaged the minister myself directly, because I wanted to get to understand what makes him to come with this decision. And what I was beginning to see, up to April, I tried to reach out to him again through the WhatsApp, which he acknowledged, because I wanted to raise this with him internally so that we can resolve it. But it proved that I was not successful in doing it.
So is there just a general apathy, a sort of a laid-back attitude? Or is this, something that's done on purpose?
I wouldn't know, Honourable Member. I must say the actual press briefing happened immediately after I was given a statement by the National Commissioner that distanced himself from what was happening. Because I kept on saying, General, these dockets are gone. Did you authorize? There are many of these things happening. Did you authorize? He says, no. I said, statement. And he hasn't given me a statement. So I kept waiting. I kept asking. And I ended up saying to him, we need to go public now and tell South Africa about what's happening, because it looks like we're not finding a solution. And when he said, we can have a press briefing, because I said, I want to have a press briefing about the PKTT work. He said, oh, you can have a press briefing. And I said, but before that, can you help me to clarify this issue of the PKTT through the statement? Then he said, okay, take a statement. When I got that statement, that's when I said, now I can move. Nobody will turn back on me.
So yesterday, General Masemola said he thought that you went a little overboard with your press briefing.
Yeah, well, he knew the things that we're raising over time. He had committed that he was going to address that with the president when he returns from Brazil, because I've heard that stories many times, that things have been addressed. I felt, no, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Let me.
While we're talking about the press conference, and then I'll move off it, just as a matter of interest, why did you feel the need to dress the way you dressed, as opposed to wearing your normal uniform or a suit? As
I said, Honourable Member, when I was talking to the members before, that as things were building up, as we're assessing what is happening and assessing the danger that we are facing, I then engage, and most those behind me are task force members.
Yes.
So I started to engage them, and I said, I think there's some kind of a takeover of government that is happening. When people want to control security cluster, they are going to take over government. And we reached a stage where we must face an enemy head on. So let's communicate a message directly and indirectly so. I asked the National Commissioner for permission to dress like that, and he gave me permission to. I still had my uniform anyway, so that's why we put it on.
Okay, I'm sure you're entitled to wear it. Why did you think that there was some force trying to take over South Africa?
Yeah, we knew from analysis that we're seeing that once General Sibiya ascended to the position of the head of the police, with the relationship that he has with other key players within the security cluster, from intelligence to the NPA to presiding officers, some within judiciary, it is easy then for them to drive the country towards where they want. But what is a force behind them are these people that are controlling money. And the biggest pain on the people controlling money are within this drug business. That was a painful thing. And maybe members don't know, once you control the security cluster, you take over the country.
Yes,
that's where we were going. That's what we're seeing happening.
So I assume that you don't have to do it now, but I assume that you can prove these connections between General Sibiya, the NPA, and the judiciary.
Well, Honourable Member, you know the court process is about the admissibility of evidence. There are things that you can be able to admit in court, but the things that might be factually there but are not admissible in court. A typical example, if I were to come to you as a prosecutor and say, I've intercepted this communication between this one and that one. I've got this record of this one and that one, bank movements of money and so forth. The first question you're going to ask me, how did you access it?
Certainly.
Exactly. So for that, you might not accept it in court because of that. But it does not necessarily mean it's not happening.
No, that's true.
There's a typical thing that we have. We can prove things to you on facts, but might not necessarily be admissible in court of law. But because it's things that we have to go beyond the normal way of gathering evidence, because of the enemy we see before us, we had to gather information in that fashion. People were recorded and they were, while they're talking to each other, photos were taken and so forth.
Are you saying that you gathered evidence illegally?
We got that evidence through intelligent means.
Yes, that's an answer to the question. In your view, General, what are the changes and reforms that are immediately essential in the police and in the wider criminal justice system to correct the trajectory of the police and the criminal justice system?
Honorable member, when I appeared here before, I raised something that majority of members seems to be warming up to it, except one member, Honorable Julius Malema, also not totally objecting, but he said we still debate. This country is big. The Constitution written gives the powers to one person to be responsible for your safety in the country. That is this big. To the extent that all the powers are centralized at the head office, that on its own increases the risk that this country is facing, what we are talking about today. I might not be in a good position to say you must devolve this from the national office to the provincial office, but it is my own conclusion that we have to, or government must look at this monster of an organization and do benchmark internationally. There are many countries that don't have the size that we have. One person overseeing almost 200,000 people. I don't think it's good. That's why there's going to be shortfall. There's going to be a lot of shortfalls in between. Performance will be compromised, and then infiltration of the bad people will happen because there's not close supervision. Yes, we might trust all these managers that we've employed, but there's going to be problems that we have. So for me, I feel we might want to look at the risk mitigation measures against what we've seen that has happened or almost happened. Because if you have a wrong person as the head of this organization, a wrong person as the head of DPCI, a wrong person as the head of crime intelligence, then we are doomed.
Yes, I agree with you on that point. Now, your contract, whether you're aware of it or not, is, according to the newspapers, about to be extended for another 5 years. How do you, if it is extended, how do you propose to use this platform to effect the changes that you want to see done? How are you going to do that?
Honorable member, I'm a provincial commissioner now. If I'm going to be one next month, I will still be one. But the provincial commissioner is given powers by the Constitution. And the Constitution says this person must account to the provincial executive. But at this present moment, there is not a direct accounting to the provincial government. I inform them as and when they need to know. They can't hold me accountable for anything. The fact that the citizens elevate this leadership in a province to be in charge, and the citizen says health, safety, social, and everything that we need to be provided with education. When it comes to security, there's limitation that that executive in that provincial government can do. Whereas the Constitution says that provincial government must contribute to the appointment of these men and women to be a provincial commissioner. It ends there. Be part of the appointment, but when it comes to the accounting part, they are not involved. I think that's part of the problems. I might be a provincial commission, wish that I can do A to Z, but I've got so much limitations that I cannot do it. So most look at this present moment. We have vacancies. I've said before, I cannot appoint a brigadier in the police. In my own province, I cannot. I must write to my colleague at the head office and seek permission. My colleagues will advertise when he or she feels like, and will bring that approval to me. I do shortlisting. I send the names to them for verification. And they decide to approve or not approve the shortlist. They bring them to me. I do the interviews. I submit 3 names recommended. Doesn't matter how best is this one. But if they feel because of the color of the skin, equity or otherwise, we take number 3.
Sure.
It doesn't matter how I feel about it. Number 3 is going to be appointed in that position. So these are all the limitations that the Provincial Commission has. While you want to make a difference, but there's this limitation which I've engaged with the provincial executive. I've been talking to the police management that please devolve some level of authority or powers to the provincial office so that it's a provincial commissioner with a provincial government that might say we have a problem in that place. We need a police station there. That the provincial commissioner doesn't have to write to the head office to ask for that police station to be there. He can just create that structure, obvious following the prescripts that are there. So those are limitations that if I were to be still granted the opportunity to be a provincial commissioner, I would still cry for. Because it doesn't help that you have the rank, the title, but no authority.
Okay, then there's another story during the rounds that I must have misunderstood somehow. There's a suggestion that you are suggesting that there was a sort of a second shadow government somewhere in waiting, a union building somewhere on a farm. Did you discuss that? And if so, what is that about?
What I said in the past, Honorable Member, is that there was a gentleman that was very big in the taxi business. He's late now. He had a game farm in north of Pretoria. Talk about taxi bosses, talk about business people, very prominent one. Talk about politicians, very prominent one. Will all make a turn in that place. I had conducted a peace talk in KZN on the taxes. He came there. I think he did not appreciate what I said in that meeting. When he left, I had this thing from people that are close to him. One of them is this Sergeant Nkosi, because he grew up with him there. He was his father. Where this man says, I want Mkhwanazi to come to the farm. If you can't bring Mkhwanazi to the farm, that means you don't have control over Mkhwanazi. Because he believed that if you come to the farm, it's a sign of respect to him. So everyone, that means they walk into that farm or drive into that farm, they are subjecting themselves to his authority. So this person was that powerful, that man. So many people are associated with him. That's why I'm saying there was that parallel kind of managing the country that was run in a farm. And there are many people of his, some of them brought us here today that were attending this gathering. So that's why I'm saying the majority of the politicians know him very well. And so he goes, he passes on, other people want to take over from him. So that's why we had to stop. General Sibiya says at one stage, communicating to Nhlanhla, that I don't have anyone else to look after me except you, Nhlanhla. Mswati is gone. So when you have a general saying that, he's handing himself over to Ken Nhlanhla by that communication. It's a worry. It tells you that we were almost having a problem. But it's something that was there for many years.
Okay, we keep hearing about the Big Five cartel. So now we know that at least Katie Molefe and Kat Matlala are apparently members of the cartel, and you today told us about Mr. Motsumai or Mr. Motsuma, who I assume is a member of the cartel. And we don't know who the others are. But what is being done to apprehend these people and stop this cartel business?
There's serious investigation underway, Honorable Member. That's why we were fighting for that counterintelligence to be allowed to continue to work. Under your supervision, of course, so that they don't abuse whatever they are doing themselves. But that's what we wanted them to be allowed to do, because they cracked that investigation and they're running with it. And I might just say before everyone here that I might not disclose everything before the Ad Hoc Committee because of the investigation. But the one famous person that is known as Vusmu's Cat Nhlanhla, he was placing himself, he was trying to replace one of the big five. But he was actually a proxy of one of them before. So in this scheme of things of the big five, he's nothing. He's a non-starter. So he's a small fish in a pond.
Not sure he'd be happy to hear that, but
Yeah, he knows it himself. He knows it himself. They are big bras that generals are afraid to call their names about.
now you say you removed General Sentimela at Crime Intelligence. Was that while you were acting commissioner?
That's correct.
And that's why you had the power to do it?
That's correct.
Where did you move her to?
I sent it to HRU, Human Resource Utilization.
See. But after that, she became the head of many different departments.
Yeah, that's correct. She came from into the crime intelligence as a brigadier. From there, she went to DPCI as a major general, and shortly after that, back to crime intelligence. I sent her to HR. Next thing, she got promoted and became a divisional commissioner of crime detection. And next thing, she's an acting national commissioner, or she's a deputy national commissioner.
And why did you only remove her when crime intelligence was and is still
I must be honest.
driven with corruption?
I must be honest, I could only deal with senior management. So I removed all of them. But I must say, not all of them were removed because they did wrong. It was a temporal arrangement to make sure that investigation is done without being compromised. And one of them, who was a good man at crime intelligence, was General Henkel. He was among those people that are temporarily placed out. But when General Pierre came and placed General Ngcobo there, General Ngcobo transferred General Henkel amongst others permanently out. And the reason used is that he's got no security clearance. And General Stole was investigating. He came to me when I was kept at home. I said to General Stole, Ngcobo does not have powers to remove General Henkel permanently because it was temporal. Number one, he's an acting divisional commissioner of intelligence. He's got no powers to move someone to another division without the division receiving. That's one. Two, Ngcobo himself has got no security clearance. So how can you not have a security clearance and you want to remove someone else that has one? Because you are alleging that he received it fraudulently so. So the road continued at the time when Pierre came. It just went on. Ngcobo came, did his things. Myself, Khumalo, we became a target of state security and SSA because it was alleged at the time that we were keeping this very secret document that was going to compromise the former President Zuma at the time. So we were enemies of intelligence community from that time.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chair.
Is it your next Honorable Kalapanat?
Thank you, Chair. General, yeah, that were Chris Ngcobo, as I recall, was found to have I did try and tell General Pierre, but she chose to ignore the information. And of course, it was found out he had a fraudulent matric certificate. So he was booted out. I'm right, yes?
I heard about that, yes.
Yeah, so that was a catastrophe waiting to happen. And no, he had no power to do any of what he tried to do. I absolutely agree with you that the policing powers should be devolved to the provinces. It's ridiculous that you aren't able to appoint who you wish to or need to or are experienced with. And that goes for all the provinces. So yes, I agree. It's this monolith where even the basics have to be ordered from one central entity. It can take months to get toilet paper to a station. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation. I think my honourable member next door has dealt with the big five that have been referred to over and over and over the last forever. The 360 million rand Medicare 24 contract, it's particularly strange to me that 1 minute the SAPS is accepting donations of bar fridges from Cat Nhlanhla via General Sentimela. And she claimed here before us that Major General Tema suggested that she should approach him, which she then did for the donation to the SAPS. And it was astounding to me. I asked her over and over, surely it was clear to her that Nhlanhla was deeply involved in serious criminal activities, specifically as a tenderpreneur linked to organized crime, contract killings. As everyone knows, around May last year, he was arrested for allegedly masterminding a botched hit on his former partner, the actress. But she approached him for a donation the year before. And even then he had a long history of arrests dating back to 2000, including a 2001 conviction for burglary. And then, of course, came the 2025 arrest, the tender business. I mean, it was all out there. He was firmly established as a major criminal suspect. And I asked her, don't you look into someone before asking donations of them? How many times must a person be arrested before the SAPS distances themselves from him or her? And her answer was basically, oh, my bad. I was gobsmacked. It really shocked me. How does that sort of thing happen within the SAPS?
Well, it's a deliberate. We tend to profile, part of the donation process in the police is that you have to follow the process where you ask to accept the donation, and the person that is providing donation to you gets profiled as to who the person is, what business interest he has, the criminal status and so forth, before the approval for you to accept the donation is made. So when you were told by senior managers that they received this donation and later they discover that the person is like this, the question is then, what was the procedure followed in receiving the donation from the beginning? Because if the procedure was not followed, they will definitely not know about CAT. But the procedure was followed for that person to be profiled prior to accepting a donation, you were not going to miss it.
I must say I was facetious. I told her that Google was her best friend. It was inconceivable to me. You did say earlier that you removed her. I figured it had to be when you were the acting National Police Commissioner.
Yes.
But if she was removed from there, why wasn't she removed from the SAPS altogether? Of course, that would have prevented the 360 million rand tender drama.
When I removed the honorable member, I appointed Jaron Monu to conduct investigation at crime intelligence. But before things were finalized, Jaron Piaga came into position. So I then had to go and sit at home for a year. Jaron Piaga then ran the organization.
I'm sure you know well my opinion of that particular lady. Mr. Komotso Pakulane came before us a number of times, in fact, having been dismissed from the SAPS and having a number of losses in court. He still professes his innocence. He lost his labor court appeal to overturn his 2020 firing, being found guilty of dishonest conduct. The courts confirmed he intentionally or negligently failed to implement the 46 million rand contract for forensic cameras. That led to a 24 million fruitless and wasteful expenditure. He faces various criminal charges in the High Court of fraud, corruption, money laundering related to multi-million rand police tenders. Now, there are links to criminal masterminds and missing police funds. Your opinion on the matter, is he a victim or is he a criminal?
Well, if the court arrests you and they convict you, then you can call it criminal. He has not been convicted, but he's been arrested. A lot of the things that have been alleged are worrying. But from my little corner, on some of the observations that I've made, there were question marks. There were indeed question marks. Yes, I was worried about how IP and Paul O'Sullivan came about these investigations that they did, which was to me a breach of security from the police or security of the country for a person private like Paul O'Sullivan to get to know about the construction structures of someone's property. However, I'm a policeman. Not to expect everyone to earn the same as I earn. Other people will have other source of income. But when you start seeing your colleagues to live a certain lifestyle, you begin to wonder what leads into this. And I'll give an example, and remember that part of my discovery, I had gone to a BMW in Montana. I bought an X5 and I was paying installment of that X5. They still gave me a discount, I think close to 100,000 rand, but it was still expensive monthly payment. A month or so later, a colleague of mine, we are sitting and talking. She tells me that her car was damaged and is sitting on bricks. She's not able to service it. So I asked her, why don't you service the car? Because there's insurance. She said, no, I can't sell the insurance because I'm a single parent. I can't afford. I just bought a house that cost 3 million rand, which also raised my, I said, you're a single parent, 3 million rand house, how do you afford it? Because I can't afford it. I'm married, my wife is giving me some money also, but we can't afford that lifestyle. So this one says, I can't fix my car. I think almost 2 months later, the generals are fighting in front of me. I don't know the reason for the fight. So when I went deeper to try and establish, I discovered that this one who said cannot afford to fix a car, she now drives an X5. So where does the X5 come from? The X5s come from the same garage where I bought mine, but was given for free. Allegations. And I'm asking, but why would a person get an X5 for free? What did you do? Then I discovered as they were talking that it was a kickback from the purchase of the fleet of the VIP, the BMWs that you see for the VIPs. The modus operandi in the police, what I gather is that we hold the money back because we have a contract, Treasury negotiates a contract with different companies to buy cars. And we must buy from the manufacturers of cars, not from a dealer on the corner of the street. But when you go to the manufacturer of the car and you want to buy, and the manufacturer says, I don't have the cars on my floor, then that manufacturer must refer you to a dealer that has the type of a car. But there must be a letter. Then you go to the dealer, you say, I want to get this car, that's how you buy it. But you don't buy it direct from a dealer because it's not registered on a central database. You then need to get a person who's registered on the central database. So there's this gentleman who's registered on the central database. The person stands on standby. A dealer in Montana goes to BMW South Africa and order 50 plus X5s and put them in a basement in his garage and don't sell them. The police, PSS, wants to buy a fleet of cars because you've changed the ministers and so forth. We need new cars. There's budget. We go to BMW, we say, BMW, we want to buy cars. BMW says, X5s are not made in South Africa. We don't have them yet. We have to import them. But because you need them now, they check on the system and say, that dealer in Montana has the fleet. They give you the letter. You take the letter, you don't go to BMW, you go to this guy on standby who's a service provider who's registered on a database. We say, place an order, we need 50 X5s. This guy goes to BMW, he collects these 50 cars and he gives it to you, you pay him. That's how, in return, the dealer releases an additional car as a bonus to whoever that facilitated the deal. So the purchases of these cars that come as a fleet towards the end of the year, over many years, have been systematically ordered in that fashion and there's kickbacks coming out of it.
What have you done about it?
So it's something that I picked up. Remember, I'm not part of this procurement, and I picked up there's something like this. And then I raised the colleague and said, but you need to open cases if there's something like this. But when the case, I'm told, landed in court, which some of my colleagues that you spoke about are in court today, I was happy. And one of the officials said, but we need that dealer. Because I confronted the dealer when I went to him. I said, you sell me a car, and I must pay so much installment, but you give my colleague a car for free. How is it possible? He was angry with me. There was a lockdown in 2020. The first opening of international travel, that gentleman sold his company. He was on the first flight out of South Africa to Canada. He's in Canada this week.
So he knew you were.
So it's a syndicate that has been running for that long. So that's what I'm saying now. When you start seeing colleagues living in a certain lifestyle,
You know.
Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi driving a car that is installment of 20,000 rand. He stays in a house that installment is 20,000 rand. Children goes to school where the school fees is more than 10,000 rand. How much does Mkhwanazi get? These are the questions that
That's why we've called for lifestyle audits over and over.
long overdue.
Look, if we're taking a more global view, is it possible that the batches of drugs and weapons that go missing from the SAPs virtually in every province are part of a system run by a particular individual or a group of individuals pulling the strings and with deep internal knowledge of the SAPs and their activities nationwide? They know when they're going to pounce on a huge drug haul or whichever. And as you said previously, some of it then disappears. And are they not perhaps linked to global syndicates? Now, there are, of course, global syndicates running drugs, child trafficking, prostitution, CRT heists, kidnappings everywhere. They're earning a fortune, and they pay for equipment that can basically leave any police service in the world in the dust. They are that powerful. They can fly in under the radar, fly out, drop off, pick up children, off they go. It's happening globally. Is it possible that our problems are linked to those?
It's an intentional problem, you're correct, Honorable Member. Our people in the country and in different provinces, these big five we're talking about is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
There are big boys out there that have not been spoken about. Some of them in Cape Town, some of them in KZN and many other places, different races that are running these operations. The modus operandi is to import these things into the country, majority of the time. They come under goods that have been imported, and they get a lift from the container of a legitimate business that brings things in, because so that when it's checked, you can be discovered. What is strange always amazes me, and I ask a question, I don't get answers. When you hear from the members of both DPCI and Crime Intelligence telling you that we have information of a shipment, they travel from Pretoria to Durban, and they identify a container. And indeed, in that container, there's drugs. How did they know about it? They'll tell you a source from abroad. Those are the questions. But they don't just say, we've identified Mkhwanazi, we leave you the container and they leave. No, they don't do that. They say, we've identified the container, we take it, we go to a police station, we book it in as SAP13, we book it out immediately, we put it in our cars, we drive with it to Pretoria. So what's happening in between that? So I've raised these things as a problem. That's why the NSHACOM is looking at the methodology of making sure things like drugs, when you find the drugs, you must destroy it almost immediately. But with there to be legislation amendments with NPA on that regard.
I'm still trying to work out who and which police officers were the ones who, during the riots in around eThekwini, went to the harbor, ordered them to pull down a container that was 3 containers up, and to drop it in an empty room and then leave. And of course, it was filled with ammunition, and it was then looted. And I know full well there was a truck offloading boxes of ammunition into the Lacey Road settlement. I told both police stations, to the left and to the right, I had people watching. Neither of them arrived. Nothing happened. So someone is running something, and they were running that, and it's hugely concerning because nobody, it seems, has ever been arrested for doing that from within the SAPS.
A part of the problem, Honourable Member, I will not know exactly how it came about, but part of the problem, provincial commissioners, Honourable Bredenbach said, what will you do as a provincial commissioner? I don't control the borders as a provincial commissioner. They are controlled by the division at the head office. But what I was told is that, and which I learned later, Durban Port, as you see it, it's not like the precinct of this parliament where you have the gate entrance, then you're in a precinct. When you leave this gate, you are outside. The Port of Durban is not like that. Yes, there are control gates to come in, but the storage of the cargo that is still under customs is kept outside the premises, offsite. So that container is one of those that came in and moved from the ship to the truck. The truck took it to a warehouse that is outside the premises of the port. It was kept there. So when that looting then happens, the opening of it, someone knew that there's ammunition in there. They would not have guessed that container out of thousands of them. But there are many containers that are still under customs that have not been cleared. In other ways, they are still within the port. They've not been released. But in the true sense of things, they are not in the port. They are sitting 5-10 kilometers out of the port.
Are you satisfied that you have sufficient evidence against Lieutenant General Shadrach Sibiya to have him arrested, charged?
From what the case I opened in KZN, I'm confident with that. And from what I gather from the team working in Gauteng, there's quite good information that they have already.
In your opinion, did the Minister of Police, Senzo Mkhunu, commit a crime? What crime would that be? Was his order to disband the BKTT illegal in terms of the law?
From me as a complainant, it was illegal in terms of the law.
What law?
Defeating the edge of justice. It is action that led into what transpired after that affected the investigations in KZN.
You have spoken out about investigations probing a specific trust account belonging to Minister Mkhwanazi in order to identify the source of the funds. What is that about? Is the investigation part of a broader inquiry into allegations of corruption and whether the minister, he is still a minister, I think, has links to criminal syndicates or tender tycoons, and how far along is the investigation? As someone, well, you say there are criminal charges. You know, as a parliamentary committee sitting here, these members do not have forensic audit capabilities. I know you would like to think that we do, but we don't. We're not SAPS members. And if there are investigations, criminal investigations, they have to be done by you, not by members of parliament. So what is the status of the matter that's being investigated about him?
Although without getting much into details, I remember, and I'm talking not necessarily being directly on that investigation, but from the information I'm getting, a briefing from the colleagues, is that part of why we end up talking about the trust fund account is because it extracted from the communication from the Nhlanhlas and the other people about having moved money into a trust fund, BMWs and the likes. That's what made us to be aware that it's a trust fund. We didn't know that. It comes from communication. We didn't communicate everything that we've received from the communication. So there are typical things that also you'll know about, honorable members, which I will want you to probe. We are talking about the lifestyle audit. A chief of staff gets appointed in August, somewhere about. Before December, he drives a Vuitton or Mercedes-Benz and he stays in a 5-point-something million rand property, and. How does he afford that lifestyle? The information I'm getting is that there was a big tender that was contested in the water affairs in KZN, Mgeni Water, which ordinarily the highest bidder was supposed to be 5 billion rand, but that highest bidder lost the tender because the one that won a tender came at 7.2 billion rand. So it's some of the things that members should not just let it loose and must be able to check it out. That how is it possible that some things like this can just happen?
And finally, please put something to bed for me. There are seemingly endless complaints from members of KZN SAPS, not crime intelligence, SAPS members, saying they have to repair their own cars, buy their own tires, literally feed their own detainees because there's no budget. We all know that SAP's budget is massive, massive, massive. Is it not going down to the provinces? I mean, there's obviously, they make claims, oh, but you take all the budget and send it to the PKTT. So there's a lot of envy there. So is it true? Isn't it true? Why is the budget not hitting the ground at station level below that?
Honorable member, I'm glad you're asking the question. As yourself being an Ad Hoc Committee and also as a police portfolio committee, it's one of those questions that you can formally ask me to respond to on my official capacity, where I give you a breakdown of the entire budget of the SAPS in KZN, how the money is being spread. The person heading my finance is Brigadier Mutley, and I think she's doing a wonderful job in managing the budget on our behalf. The garage problems remain the biggest sore point for us. There's a shortage of artisans. There's a shortage of equipment in the garage, but then there's also corruption within. So you'll have a vehicle that should be serviced in the garage and come out, but that vehicle is not serviced in the garage. It gets referred to an outside person. Some of them are foreign nationals. And this outside person is contracted by a company that has been employed and given a contract to service cars for us. So the car is there. Some of these officials might be involved in servicing that car. Eventually, the car comes back in and is fixed, and it goes. A month later, it comes back. Then you ask yourself a question. When it leaves and it comes back a month later, what is the problem? Diagnosis is done, and they give you a different problem on the car. So every time the police car comes to the garage and it leaves, it leaves with another problem. So it's a system internally that is not working. So for us to correct that, we need to have these in-house services, cameras every corner of that property, so that nobody goes in with things and go out with things. Perhaps we might start seeing cars being repaired properly. The parts, vehicle parts, that are being procured, being safely stored in those places. If we run our garages, proposal I made to management at one stage was that if we're employing Mr. RNC to be a service provider, we must say, Mr. RNC, we're giving you a contract of servicing cars. In your garage, you're going to service our vehicles for this period of a year. No other car goes into your garage. So that is held accountable for cars coming in, get service, and they leave, and the quality of those cars. He then be accountable for that. At this present moment, what we do in our contract, we give him a contract, but it goes and outsourced to other people.
Outsources.
And when it's outsourced, those people will strip, send a quotation. Quotation comes in this amount, sometimes inflated. And when it's inflated, the budget is not there to pay for that part, which becomes part of the problem. So there's a whole garage management that needs to be addressed in the South African Police Service. Again, honorable members, that these things are centralized at national office. Be it a
I saw-
contract, be it
yeah.
everything is centralized.
I saw it happening, it started, I think, under Ria Piecha. There was a person who'd supplied SAP's tires nationally. The system was working, the tender had to then be reapplied. He put in his tender, it was low, we knew he had the ability, but in fact was ignored and went down to the third chosen tender of two gentlemen who had no factory, no background, no ability, and she ensured it went to them, as I recall. And of course, anyone trying to challenge something for not receiving the correct tender result, they have billions of rands against their own kitty, and they just end up backing off and leaving. And that was, I think, one of the start of the dramas that has ended up with these vehicles who sit around month after month, even years, not serviced, gathering dust.
Yeah, it's that problem, I remember, and plus a problem of a police officer as a driver. The way we drive a state vehicle, we don't drive it the way we drive our own cars.
No.
We don't even respect a speed hump on the road on a police car, but we respect a speed hump with our own cars. So what do we expect when the car is driven like that? It's going to break. A lot of things are going to be damaged because of how we're handling it. We want to punish a police officer. We still, to date, the risk of the organization don't have any employment condition that compels a police officer to drive a car.
Or to have a state license.
Yeah,
License. A lot of them just don't bother.
they might have license, but they say, I don't touch a state car.
Yes.
So pretty soon, we'll have cars parked and nobody
Yes.
drives them
Some
because
stations
on
do.
an employment condition is not a compulsory thing to have. So those are some of the things that one talks about, which is a risk to the organization. But yeah, we hope
If the
management.
powers were devolved to the regions, to the provinces, you would be able to deal with situations like that. Exactly. Thank you, Chair. Hello, sir. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, I was,
Shocked.
no, you are exactly on the dot. It's now 5:30,
Thank you.
it's already at 5 minutes past. So your 25 minutes have ended. Honorable Matthews.
Don't have any questions, Chair. I'm joking. Imagine us not having questions. Good afternoon again, Lieutenant General.
Good evening.
We wrote to the President to respond to some questions that have arisen through our proceedings, and he's responded. And in particular, he responded to our question regarding the disbandment of the PKTT. I'm not sure if you've been privy to it, because you seem to be privy to a lot of things.
No, I have not seen that response yet.
But anyway, the President indicated in his response that he was not aware of the Minister's directive to disband PKTT. He did not agree with the view that the IMC had ceased to exist in the sixth administration. And President Ramaphosa further stated that the Minister was unaware of, or was aware rather, of this position, and he did not support the conclusion, or rather, the conclusion that the PKTT was operating unlawfully. And pretty much you were saying he did not endorse the decision to disband it. And he indicated also that as late as February 2025, the PKTT was still continuing to do its work and had not been formally disbanded. and that was according to his knowledge. So this evidence differs very greatly to what Minister Mkhwanazi told us, because he said that the president had supported his decision. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to that, but not too long, please.
Okay,
Lieutenant General.
honorable chair and members, I can still repeat.
Mhm.
The Minister Mkhwanazi was influenced to write that letter by bad people. He must admit. If he doesn't admit before South Africans, he must admit at least to his boss. He was influenced. That
that-
which he presented here was trying to justify the actions, but he was influenced.
So we pushed him, because that brings me to the next question. We pushed him on that, and I'm sure you watched his testimony, and he was very clear that it was his own decision, and that he has taken responsibility for it. So do you have any other supporting evidence that he told the committee that it was his decision? So you saying your view is that he was pushed. Besides you having a view, do you have any concrete or evidence that can, or where we can go to get that information that he was pushed?
Well, when
Right,
when you assess the relationship that he has built with these people and the meetings that he's held, I mean, Jeremy Sikit at one stage, she writes about how the minister was talking about the border issues and the transferring of functions to the BMA. This is Mosikiti saying that. I was not in those meetings. So, but when you assess all these activities that were happening, then you cannot help but to reach a conclusion that these three things listed in the letter were not coincidental. They were strategically decided upon on the 31st of December, when the National Commission is on leave, that it must be commissioned like that. The very biggest one for me is that now this thing has come out. Now there's search and seizure of these equipment, these gadgets that they used. Then the minister does not avail himself. The team was sitting at his property at Matlambandov. The team told me that we know he's inside there. Can we jump and go in or break this case? I said, leave him. There's no need for you to break in and go and do anything because you're going to cause a problem. Eventually later, he brought these gadgets. But guess what? They are wiped off. And the team had to then go deeper to to retrieve this that has been deleted. They uncovered these things that were deleted. So you then ask yourself a question, but why would a minister wipe off information from a state property? What is there to hide? So it is those things, and one of the things he said there that it was Vusi Pikoli that he communicated with. And we are not seeing to date any communication between him and Vusi Pikoli on a day. What we have is between him and the chief of staff, on record from the downloads that were retrieved. So again, it's the work study documents, the cost factor has been disputed, but the CFO and the investigating work study officers were not invited here, but National Commission says it was written to him, this work study, not to the minister. The Act does not empower the minister to interfere with the structures of the police and so forth. So there's so many things been presented here before this Ad Hoc Committee that proves that minister's reasoning that he put in, it was after he's taken a decision, trying to justify. One of them was the president. President has distanced himself. So we can't help but conclude. For me, where I'm sitting, he might have been part of the squad that was doing bad, but I still strongly believe, I give him the benefit of doubt, that the minister was influenced. Being new in the department, doesn't understand much, like many leaders, they get captured by these members and they make them to do things that they shouldn't do.
So we wouldn't at this stage have access to the messages that were downloaded on his gadgets?
Well, most of them are with the team that's investigating in KZN.
Okay.
That is dealing with the case, and I know in Gauteng as well. But
So
KZN is the one that is, I'm sure, through the
And
engagement.
who's in charge there at KZN? Would we be able to access that?
There's a
Part of our
Brigadier
deliberations.
Gnane is a lead investigator, but he works with the prosecutors from the NPA in KZN. So as I said, I'm a complainant, so I don't get deeper into understand exactly. They just brief me. I talk about things when they update me about the status. But otherwise, I don't necessarily know what they do and where are they. I would have wanted them to be in court in December already, but they have not been in court.
So I think just as far as our legal team and evidence leaders, perhaps we should look into if we can access that, Chair. Thank you. We want to move on to the movement of dockets because I'm just a tad confused here. So when you were here the last time, you said you only found out about the dockets when they were already moved, right? And then, let me just open this thing that's just closed. When they were already moved. So we've had the National Commissioner, we've had Kamalo, Lieutenant General Kamalo, even Sabia and Sentimule say that they did not communicate with you regarding the movement of the dockets. And I might have misunderstood what you had said earlier, Lieutenant General. Did you know about the move that the dockets were gone, or you only knew they were gone after they had already left?
I became aware when Jarrison Tumule called me and tell me that dockets are in Pretoria and you need to come to KZN.
Okay, so it was how I understood it. We still don't have an explanation, and none of them could give us an explanation, and including you. Why would your team not tell you that they were moving the dockets, including Kamalo?
General Kumalo, I said before, and I'm saying again, I was upset with him because the team was reporting to him on the chain of command. So the team was not talking to me directly on day-to-day. They'll talk via him to come to me, updates and everything. When I went to engage with the team, I go via him. So when he felt this pressure in the head office, I think he felt that they might as well just comply with this thing now, Sentumul and them are involved. And he forgot, he omitted to talk to me about it. So when I became aware, I told him to give me a statement to explain that. And he knows that I was very upset with him, what he did.
So even none of the members in your team knew that the files, or rather the dockets were going, even to just even send you a message to say, hey, Chief, they're coming to take these dockets?
Well, we have not built that relationship of the members that are going to bypass the common structure and talk to someone else.
So they discipline like that.
Yeah, well, that's why they've been successful in what they're doing, because they follow the protocols that we've established. So, and we try to support them as much as we can. But they are free to talk about grievances that they have, but on work-related matters, even if they need resources. That's why at one stage I took vehicles that were reserved for the king. Because they did not have cars, I took those cars that were parked and gave it to them to work with.
Just to touch on just quickly, because this is based on your first testimony and what we've heard later on from other testimonies. So you know that both Honorable Collard Barnard and Honorable Adams have been witnesses here. When you gave testimony here before, you were very firm that if you continued being pushed, that you can come with more receipts. Do you still hold that view about our members of parliament being involved?
Yes, I can, Honourable Member. That's why I said before, that when I spoke today, that our political leaders become victims themselves because of intelligence. So as much as the members might think good, I spoke about Mr. Adams was here. He might think he's doing what is good for what he's doing, not knowing that he's actually been used to do wrong. So the evidence then is left behind that, okay, this one did this one did that. That's why I cited some examples about Mr. Adams, how he ended up at the prison in Devon, police officers that were part of it, the blue light motorcades and so forth. It's evidence that we did not present before the Ad Hoc Committee,
So
which we can present if we are pushed to do that.
So do you maintain that both the members of parliament that we had as witnesses, they were just being used unknowingly and they were not deliberately part of any sinister activities?
I like to, all the ones that we mentioned, Mr. Adams, Ms. Cora Barnard and everyone else, they receive information from intelligence that tells them about things. And then they take a responsibility of acting on it without realizing what is the ultimate motive. That's why I said earlier, a member is released by court with a bail condition that says go back to work. But the members of crime intelligence calls the honorable member and say, these members are not supposed to be here. What happens after that? The honorable member writes she takes a portion of saying that National Commission, that means it's violating the law. When the response comes, she only learned later, that time, that, oh, these members were wrong. But it's after the fact. At that time, when she made that noise, guess what happened? The National Commission removed the general from crime intelligence at that time because of that noise. He removed that person and said, okay, go and sit somewhere else until the dust settles before we bring it back. Some of the things that the members are going to talk about are legit. They are wrong things we're doing. But let me give a classic example against about the same general we're talking about. He was arrested twice for different cases. The latter one was with the crime intelligence team about the appointment. But the first one, he was alone on some questionable behavior that he had. But when the members are making noise about that, I cannot say they are wrong because it must be answers. I also had question marks about it. I said, how do you interact like this that leads into such thing? But such must be separated. You understand? You mustn't say because this one is wrong here, it means it's wrong everywhere. So it is that which members get caught. They get caught into such things. Surely, Mr. Adams, I don't think he even knew where the offices of the Inspector General of Intelligence is situated.
So
I don't think he knows where Orlando is. If it was not the members that drove him to get there.
but you maintain that they're not intentionally involved.
I
They've
agree.
just been used. So what I'm trying to say is that they get information and they act on it. So it's not that they're involved in setting up.
No, not in the planning.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
they become
That's what I
enablers.
want to know. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
it's the same approach as said about the minister.
All
They
right.
become enablers of the people who are doing wrong
That's
by
what-
using
okay.
them.
Okay. So they're not involved in the planning of whatever is going on.
I
behind
don't
the scenes.
believe, we don't have evidence to
don't think-
prove that
okay.
they're part of the planning
All
to
right.
some degree.
So that clarifies a lot. Honorable Adams, from what you know, is he under surveillance?
I'm not at crime intelligence, so I'd rather not talk about.
But you know things.
Yes, I do, but I can't talk about the
you can't
operations
tell
of
us. Okay.
intelligence.
And then you said he got blue lights. Who, from who?